Hey, welcome back to the MindShare Podcast. This show is sponsored by Kits Keep In Touch Systems, a two-time international award-winning marketing suite for sales professionals. REM Real Estate Magazine, Canada's premier monthly magazine for real estate professionals. And the ORCF, the Ontario Realtors Care Foundation, enabling and empowering realtors across Ontario to fundraise in support of shelter-related causes in the communities in which they live and work. You can learn more about all of our sponsors by visiting my site, mindshare101.com. While you're there, I want to remind you that this week, Friday, now, if you listen to the audio, it literally, like if you tuned in, like as soon as this podcast dropped across all major podcast platforms, registration closes August 9th. That's this week, Friday. Okay, so we are live right now. It is Wednesday. You got a couple days. That's all you got. And your seat in that room is waiting for you. This is your chance to join me and some very, very amazing people in person, live in Toronto. And our mission is to motivate you. It's to inspire you. It's to help you build a stronger mindset and overall to help you spark new, fresh ideas that will propel you to your next level of success in both life and in business. Now imagine this. Imagine being in a room where you get to share your challenges and immediately get solutions from people who are walking in the same shoes as you, as well as from experts who have helped many other people get to their next levels. This is 2.5 days of masterminding. This is not some big conference hall. This is a small, intimate room set up perfectly. And I got to tell you, I was just in the venue the other day. It is awesome. I am super, super pumped to spend 2.5 days in there. But again, it's not a dark room. It's not a conference hall. This is an awesome room with some amazing people. And I personally guarantee you that you're going to walk out of there loaded with excitement, loaded with new ideas, and that you're going to be ready to take over the world. Check out the website for details, mindshare101.com. Registration is about to close. Get yourself in that room with us. Today's episode is number 295. She is passionate, dedicated, and driven by a genuine desire to make dreams come true. She believes that kindness is the secret ingredient that transforms the buying and selling process, fostering a positive and supportive environment, putting her clients' needs at the forefront of everything she does. With an extensive knowledge of the local market and current trends, in addition to being equipped with negotiating skills, she thrives on achieving win-win situations that leave both buyers and sellers satisfied. Leaving the cookie-cutter approach behind, she believes that every client deserves a tailored real estate experience that reflects their unique vision and aspirations. Joining me on this episode of the MindShare Podcast is real estate broker Rayissa Palmer. Rayissa, welcome to the MindShare Podcast.
I'm going to bring you to every listing presentation to start it that way.
You know what? It's we've known each other a number of years now, and you've been doing some fantastic stuff out there, achieving a ton of success, and it's super exciting to have you join me on the show today. I thank you.
Well, thanks so much for asking me. I'm an avid listener. Your podcast is on my car, on my phone when I'm driving. You are my regular go-to. I send it to a lot of new agents in our office. You've got some good stuff. So this was on my bucket list to be on your podcast. So thank you so much.
I love it. Bucket list. And we're going to talk to this type of stuff shortly, because again, when you have a plan and you stay focused, cool things in life happen.
100%. And it's funny. That's one of the biggest things I learned from your MindShare. The last MindShare that I was at the group, like I knew that in the back of my mind, but it was just going through the process and going through the different speakers. And I was like, okay, I have to put pen to paper. It can't be in my head. It has to be on paper.
It's you know what though, it's like anything, right? Like when you're going through any situation in life and you are happy about something, stressing about something, trying to figure something out, I find that one of the best tools we still have, and outside of these smartphones, is this thing here called the pen. Yeah. It truly brings your thoughts to life. It brings your ideas to life. It brings your problems to life. It helps you solve problems. But I mean, if you leave everything up in your mind, you're either going to forget a ton of stuff, or you're going to get so overwhelmed and you're going to bounce around from so many different ideas and so many different solutions and problems and everything else that you don't even know where to start anymore or where to finish.
No, and that was one of the things that I learned because it was trying to be so technology driven. I was trying to keep everything in just my Evernote and just in my calendar. And what was happening is it wasn't top of mind. So, one of the key takeaways from our last mastermind was we had to figure out what works for us. So, what works for me is in my planner in the morning, well, actually, the night before, because in the morning I read it. But what I do now is the night before in my planner, I put in these are my top 5 things I need to accomplish. And then I have my list in my phone of all the other things I have to do. So then at least it's on paper and I have the satisfaction of crossing it out. But I open that in the morning and I read it and I'm like, okay, don't forget, these are the top 5. The rest I have to do, but if I don't get to them, it's okay. And that was a key takeaway for me. And it was mind changing and life changing, believe it or not.
You know what? I do believe it. I really do. And sometimes it's amazing how some of the simplest things and some of the simplest ideas make the biggest impacts. We're so good. Like we are so good at overcomplicating things with these smartphones,
Yep.
and trying to get into all this technology and all these different applications and all this stuff that we don't really know. And we got to learn it all. Like just write the stuff down, bring it to
Well,
life.
even for clients. So, and my background is marketing and
Yeah,
advertising
that's right.
in the US, right, for 15 years. And I work for some big companies. I work for an ad agency. So I'm used to presenting in front of people. But what I noticed was when I switched to being an entrepreneur and presenting just one-on-one to potential buyers or sellers, first I had the paper, the listing presentation, and people loved it. And I had the leave behind. And then I was like, oh, technology, I'm going to switch to my iPad. And what happened is that there was the leave behind wasn't the same because it was less. I could see them zoning out when I showed them the video while I was sitting there, which then was also a little bit awkward. So we changed it, and that was one of the key other learnings I got at the mastermind was how do I make the biggest impact? So we changed it to a short video that we send beforehand to kind of do a little short introduction of what to expect, but I still come with paper. And it's a tangible, right? And people have it in their hands. They have it when I leave, talks about what I'm presenting, talks about their pricing, talks about the marketing strategies. And they're like, oh my God, this is amazing because won't remember everything, so I can read it later.
So good. So good. Great start to today. Cause you know what? Today's show, we titled it The Power of Investing in You, Strategies from an Expert Realtor. And I want to get into a lot more discussion around, takeaways and mastermind and different things that are helping you in your days. What I do want to do though is almost start off in a different channel right now for a quick moment, and we will get there. We're going to talk about that stuff because I know there's a lot of people dying to hear your take on it. You were in the room with us last year. You know what went down. Hey, we know we don't tell anybody about what's going on, right? And you're going to be back there this year. And I know you don't know what's going on this year, but you were there last year. And although there may be some changes, we tell nobody anything. We'll tell them a little bit. Maybe we'll give them a little bit. But hey, what's your take on this market right now?
So it's interesting because I've got 2 listings right now and I have about 3 buyers I'm working with. So this is after the July interest rate drop here in Canada. And I was hoping that the buyers would come out much more than they did. And what I noticed when I'm tracking other listings that are comparable to mine and what I'm tracking with my buyers is literally the week before and kind of the week after, we had a little bit of an uptick with showings. There were numbers that were booked. And then we're into August and it's quiet. It is exceptionally quiet. The showings are trickling in. Buyers are going on vacation. Sellers are going on vacation. They're now starting to get ready for school. If they've got kids going to university, they're doing shopping. So it's quiet. And I feel like I hope it's the calm before the storm that people start coming back in for the fall because there's one more rate announcement here in Canada in September. Because inflation went down. You take a look at what the bond yields are doing. Everything's pointing to that, but who's going to take the first leap?
It's something that we are hearing across the board right now. Coast to coast. I would say that again, East Coast right now, of at least up here north of the border. I know that their markets are doing pretty well. I would say that, in terms of real estate market, I would say that, typically speaking, and again, all of our friends on the East Coast know this one, but typically speaking, when our markets are doing well and sort of to the west of us, they're not doing as well. And so it's great news for the East Coast. That's it for the rest of the country. It does seem like most pockets are very quiet right now. And I would think that a lot of that does have to do with this this change in what's going on with the economy in a drastic way, right? We saw interest rates go up, which again, I will say it for the millionth time, interest rates are not horrible right now, no matter what's going on with them. Yes, they're higher than they were a few years ago, but they're not bad.
No,
There still really is opportunity out there for people, but you do see that the rising, the interest rates themselves, let's just say where they're at, and even if they're coming down a little bit, they're higher. Taxes are higher. Cost of living is higher. Summertime is here. We're into the dog days of summer. And so a
yeah,
lot of people are just focused on, as you said, vacations, cottages, getting ready to go back to school, making maybe some of those last moves for the kids. But we're not seeing as many properties coming to market at the moment. And even for the ones that are, we're also not seeing all the buyers out there. And I do believe that the buyers, and I think everybody would agree with this, have just been waiting to see what's going to happen with the rates.
yeah, I
And I mean,
think so. And I
go
also
for it.
think so I talk to my mortgage brokers that I work with on a
Yeah.
regular basis,
Yeah.
because the mortgage brokers are sort of the precursor to what's going to happen in the market, because people have to get pre-approvals. Now everyone's comfortable, at least in the Toronto market, where they know that they should have a pre-approval before they start looking. So the consumer has been educated. So
Okay.
what's happened for my mortgage brokers in the last couple of weeks is they are busy. They are getting an influx of people that are coming back that were pre-approved last year that didn't buy, that are now like, hey, can we rerun the application? What do you need from me? So when I hear that, that tells me that in the next maybe 2 to 3 weeks, the market buyers should be coming back in and things should be moving. But again, you're right, with listings, there aren't as many. Like there's a condo market's a little bit different. I don't know if you want to get into that, but the condos, there's a ton of listings,
Mm-hmm.
and it's here in the GTA, and that's for a variety of reasons. Um, but what's interesting with the condo market is that right now there's a lot of listings out there because we have investors who are going to have to remortgage. There's a huge amount of remortgaging happening in the spring, and some of them know they aren't going to make it, so they put their properties up. Other investors aren't buying because the system is tightened up where it's a little bit more difficult to purchase an investment property. You have to put more money down. We've had a huge amount of number of new buildings come on the market, so those investors that wanted to sell are now selling their properties. So we have more condos for sale than we ever have. The interesting thing is that, and you know this, David, is that the new construction has stopped, meaning the new construction that they're selling. So the condos for the future, they've stopped selling those. They've put those on pause, a huge amount of projects. So 4 or 5 years from now, we're going to be in the opposite market, I think, where condo sales are going to be really high. There's not going to be enough of them, and there's going to be a demand. So I'm telling my investor clients right now, if you have a condo, if you can hold on to it for the 4 or 5 years, like if you need to sell, right? If you're retiring, if you're selling because you want to give money to your children, whatever it is. But if you can hold on for another 4 or 5 years, I think you'll be in a much better position than trying to sell now, because our market in condos goes like this. Right?
Hey, listen, you bring up the mortgage renewals, and that's somewhere I was going to go with it as well. Is that we know that there's a lot of renewals coming up, and we know that there's a lot of people that are not going to be able to afford that, and they're going to have to get out, and we're going to see the prices of those properties that they potentially bought at a higher price are going to have to be lower. It just is what it is, and there's going to be some people taking some serious losses, and much the same with the people that did the condos. I mean, the reason a lot of them are not being completed right now or just stopping the sales is because they realize that the pricing that they put it up at is not going to move. So they're dropping those prices, and they get into a point where they go, well, we don't know how much lower we're supposed to go with this. And that's affecting profit margins. And therefore they've put the hold on that. That being said, again, I think that what you just said and the same sentiments I have, there's a ton of opportunity coming. It like we're poised for it. Now, to this, as we talk to the immediate, what do you think we're going to see from prices in the fall? Do we see the interest rate come down another quarter point? Do we see the prices start to go up yet? What's your sort of thought, anticipation on that, and maybe even speaking with your colleagues?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And so, and my background too, in previous, so I've been doing this 12 years. Before was the marketing branding, but I was always in financial services, in the Canadian market and in Puerto Rico. And so for me, I follow the economists, and I'm looking to see what they're saying, and I'm looking to see what the market's doing. So I think right now in the fall, the interest rate has to come down, because I think our number that I've heard is like 50 or 60% of our mortgages in the spring. 50% of mortgages out there are going to be renewed in the spring, because 5 years ago, we had a huge amount of people buying properties. And here in Canada, we either get 3 or 5 year mortgages we have to renew. Unlike our friends in the States, like my brothers, oh my God, one of them got locked into a 30-year mortgage at like 1.5%.
Wow.
right? Crazy. So for 30 years, he's never renewing his mortgage, where obviously we have to. So because there's such a large amount of mortgages being renewed next year, I do think they have to come down in September, maybe one more, and then in the spring. Because I know right now some of my clients are getting mortgages under 5% in the renewals, and even in for new mortgages, depending on what their circumstances are. And even for some of them too, it's other product attributes for the mortgages that's more important. Can they sell without a penalty? If they need to sell in 2 years, so they get a higher mortgage. So it's the whole picture. But I think prices are not going to go crazy, because I think the consumers are a little bit more savvy than they were a few years ago. So I think it'll hold steady. I don't think people are, the news is all fire and brimstone, crash is coming. If we didn't crash in 2008 when the subprime debacle was happening in the US, we didn't crash during COVID, and we didn't go into a recession coming out of COVID. I don't have a genie in a bottle that I can ask, but I don't think we're going to have a crash. We had an adjustment. And, we used to go like this with housing prices. I think now we're going to be balanced, which makes so much more sense.
You know what? I agree with that point. I think that it's more balanced, and I think that that's not a bad thing at all. I don't know that we're going to crash. I think that everybody's been pretty resilient over the past number of years. I think we're going through a period of adjustment.
Yep.
And this is where everybody needs to be more cautious around what they're doing, what they're spending on. And naturally, that's what the sentiment seems to be out there. I mean, I was having this conversation with a coaching client on one of our one-to-one coaching calls earlier today. And we were talking about the fact that even this past weekend, spending time up at the cottage and speaking with family and speaking with friends, people from a variety of different industries across the board, things are slow. It's quiet. And that's just a byproduct of the economy right now. So if you can sustain it and be smart about what you're spending on, there's no reason to have fear. Just be cautious, be smart about what you do. Much the same. Don't follow my favorite famous one here is like the sheeple mentality of when people do, you go do. You do when it's right for you. I mean, if we look at opportunity, would you say there's going to be opportunity over the next number of months for people to do something with real estate, or have we got maybe a couple of years before that new opportunity sparks itself? Where we talk about like the highs coming to the lows and the lows starting to creep back up.
I think some of that opportunity is there now, and I'll tell you why. Is because the prices right now are holding steady. They're not. We are having multiple offers in some properties, but we're not selling at huge increments over, 20, 30, and 40% over. So what I think is good for a buyer and a seller is the seller is selling at, X dollars, right? And then they can buy at X dollars, but they're also buying on the lower end. So even if they're selling a little bit lower, you have to look at it from the perspective of your new mortgage, your actual principal is going to be lower than if you're buying in a hot market where the interest rates are really high. Where the interest rates are lower, but the principal is so much higher. And when my mortgage brokers do the numbers, you're actually better off buying now. So even let's say you make a little bit less on your property and profit, in the end, you actually will be long-term, because remember, real estate's a long-term game. It's not a short-term game. So in the long term, you will actually make more money. So and right now, as a buyer, it's actually refreshing for them. I can take them out, show them different properties. We can go back and do a second visit. We can do a home inspection. On my listings, we do a pre-home inspection as well, so that everyone knows if there's any issues or we address them. And we can actually take the time to do that versus rushing through a process and then someone buys something and, maybe it wasn't 100% a good fit for them. And then I think long-term we will always dip highs and lows. We don't know what's happening with the U.S. election. That'll impact us.
Yes.
Crazy weather changes. In certain places there, insurance is getting more expensive to come by in floodplains, different areas. So that's the outlying factors. But I think right now it is a good opportunity for buyers and for sellers.
Look, this is why if you're paying attention to the market and you've got some exponential dollars, you've got you're poised to be able to do something. Again, paying attention to what's happening right now. I mean, we watch the real estate market, we watch the stock market. There are many that watch the crypto market. The different places that you can invest as what we might call passive income. We're watching it, and yeah, there's a lot of outside factors out there, but again, I do believe that a lot of opportunity is coming. And, anytime you go through some difficulties, you always got to look to the other side and think, well, what's on the other side of that? Yep. Sometimes it can only go one direction, and that direction would be upwards.
Exactly. What goes down must come up.
That's
right?
it.
It's back to life.
Yep. So let me ask you, what are you doing on a daily basis that, is really assisting you to truly move your business forward no matter what this market is doing? Because again, look, we got a lot of people in this industry, especially in the province of Ontario. Okay. And we got a lot of those people that shouldn't be in this industry. There's many that do not treat it like a real business. I know, just knowing you certainly do. You've been doing it professionally for a long time. Again, what are you doing to move your business forward, sort of on that day to day? I mean, you talked earlier about having sort of those 5 non-negotiables and some other things you need to get done. Tell us more about what a day is looking like right now, because you can't impact the competition. Like, you can't control the competition. You can't control the market, and we know the market's not where people want it to
Nope.
be. And look, you mentioned something real important a moment ago. Buyers have the opportunity to actually shop. They have the opportunity to go back and look again, as opposed to just jump into something with a blindfold on that's way overpriced. So there's a lot of good there, but you want to keep pushing. We all want to keep pushing. What are you doing?
So one of the big reasons I signed up for your mastermind last year was because my business before was like up and down, right? I would have like one quarter that would be phenomenal, and then I'd have one quarter that would be like hardly anything, and it was a roller coaster. And I'm like, okay, I'm running my own business. I'm an entrepreneur. I had to switch my brain, right, from working in the corporate world where I had a paycheck. And so in switching that, I was trying to create repeatable processes, and I didn't know how to do that and I didn't do it well enough so that, I could actually have steady income coming in. So I was like, I'm going to give myself a kick in the butt. I'm going to this, mastermind thing, no idea what it's about, but I'm going because I trust David. So
Yeah, I appreciate you.
So, and one of there was so many key things, and I was just rereading through my notes because I'm a note taker. I took my notes on my Evernote, so I have it on my phone, or, I can read it anywhere. And I actually once a month go back through and reread, because when I take notes, I put notes in there like idea, so that for the future, or to do, right? Because it sparks an idea when I'm listening. But one of the things, so people talked about time blocking pretty consistently in the sessions we're at. And so one of the things that I changed was I was much more reactionary before. So it was like, oh my God, what am I going to do today? Oh, I have a listing coming up. Oh, I have this. And then I wouldn't get the things done that I needed to get done. And I was not filling my pipeline. I was not going after and making sure that I was taking care of my clients that had already bought with me 2 or 3 years ago and keeping in good contact with them. So what I do now is I'm a bit more scheduled. I don't time block every single hour of the day, because for me, that doesn't work. But what I do is I have a commitment. So I get up in the morning between 6 and 6:30, or usually at 6 in the summer, 6:30 in the winter because of the light. And then in the morning for me, my routine is I get up, I make my tea, and I actually work first. So I go and I check my email, I answer everything. There's 2 things I do before that. So one is gratitude.
I like that.
So that's how I start my day. What I'm grateful for, and I have this little menagerie that's right by my bed, and it's sort of, there's symbols for me that symbolize what's important to me and to my life, through my family, through my friends, and through taking care of my clients. So I wake up, the first thing I do is the gratitude. So before I even when I sit up in bed. And then after the gratitude, I go and make my tea. I open up my planner and I look at the top 5 things that I need to do. So I'm like, okay, so let me focus on those. So then I go on the computer, I do my emails to make sure I'm catching up on what those 5 things are, whatever contacts I need to send out, whatever paperwork I need to get ready. Because for me, then I go to the gym and I take classes. I have an amazing facility. It's in Inglewood called Riverdale Fitness Mill that I love, and I love their classes. So for me, I time block my classes so that I work before, because my classes are either at 7 or 8. I do 2 hours on a Monday. I do like a strength training class on the ball. I do a yoga class after. Tuesdays, I either walk or I take the Pilates class. Wednesday is either Zumba or yoga. Thursdays is this amazing strength training class that kills me, but it has actually built up my biceps, believe it or not. So it's awesome. And Fridays, TRX and stretch. So, and then when I'm driving back from the gym, I'm on my phone. I'm calling people back that have communicated during that time. My clients know, because I post on my Instagram, my social media, that I'm at the gym. They know that for that time they can reach me before or after. And then I go home, shower, change, and I'm either at my desk or my office, and then I know what I have to do the rest of the day. So mentally and physically, I am there, and I cannot survive now without going to the gym.
See, but is that, look, I said to you, so what are you doing to push your business forward every day? And you were like, I practice gratitude and I go and work out and I get my mind straight, and then I'm prepared and I'm scheduled for my day.
100%. It has been a mind-blowing difference to where I focus better at work. I spend my time more wisely, and it allows me to be free and clear from a mindful perspective so that I can focus on my clients. Because for us, I've done the leads. I've bought the leads. I've spent 2,000 a month. I've done all these crazy things that people tell you to do. I bought drank the Kool-Aid. And what I realized is you have to take care of your existing clients, and the repeat and referral business from those is what drives the wheels for me. And I love my clients. I know them personally. One of my clients were my husband and I are godparents to their 2 children as a result of the relationship we developed. I adore them. We know them. We do all kinds of things during the year for them, and I try to take care of them. I'm their go-to. I get calls. Do you have a plumber? We have a raccoon in the attic. But do you have? The last one was a nanny. They're like, we need a nanny who can come in and who can do this. And I was like, oh, I know someone, right? So that's for me what's most important is helping them, and that was one of the key things I learned at your mastermind.
It's amazing how we again look internally and say, if I don't get myself right, it's going to be very difficult to get anything right for anybody else.
Yes.
Now, look, we talk about gratitude, and I have to say I am super, super grateful that you were even part of our community. Again, you bring awesome energy, awesome ideas, great collaboration. We look at practicing gratitude, and I do it every morning as well. I think it's imperative. I used to do it at nighttime, and I'd be able to look back over my day to take a sense of like, what did the day look like? And it was great. I have found that when I do it in the morning, it's actually not just gratitude, but it's coupled with intention setting. And now I'm very intent with what my day is going to look like.
Yeah.
I am writing down things that I'm grateful for that I am quote unquote manifesting into my day for the day. And oftentimes these things do come to life, and sometimes they may not come to life in the time frame in which you would like them to, but eventually they do. And that comes through the process of repetition and consistency. Same thing with going to the gym, repetition and consistency.
Yes.
Now beyond what's that?
I know you work out regularly as well.
Yeah.
But can we go back to the manifesting part for just a second?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm a pretty practical person, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, oh, this whole manifestation stuff, like seriously, like I'm going to sit there and be like, oh yeah, I want to manifest $1 million. Well, what I realized, and part of it was some of the stuff we learned in your mastermind, but that sort of triggered me to look into more things.
Yeah.
So what I realized was it's not manifesting, oh, I'm going to be a millionaire. It's manifesting the things that you want to accomplish in life, the things that you want to see happen in your life. So I sit there and I'm like, okay, so this is what I want my life. This is what my life should be, and this is what I want my life to be. And then, but instead of saying should be, I'm like, this is what my life is.
That's
so all the
it.
things that I want to manifest, I'm like, and so in the mornings I do that, and at night I do that, and in my car, because I drive a lot, obviously. But that is a game changer to the point where, and then I have this whole little thing where whatever I do with the manifestation, at the end of it, for me, I say, because everything goes my way. So that's my thing at the end, because it's a repeat for my brain, right? I've created a pattern in my brain so that brings those things. So literally, like we're on vacation right now. I'm coming to you from this amazing cottage. We're in the eastern townships of Quebec. Beautiful. And we were driving around, and I'm like, the parking lot was full. We had to go to the SAQ is the liquor and wine store, because we had to pick up wine for the evening. And I'm like, can't find a parking spot. And I'm like, oh my God, you know what? There's going to be a parking spot for me because everything goes my way. And literally, sure enough, and this kind of stuff happens all the time.
Do you know how many times that we pull into a full parking lot with all intentions that we're parking at the front, and there will be a spot right there at the front?
Right? 100%.
Yeah, right. So I'm telling you, it is amazing how powerful the mind can be.
Yes.
And again, oftentimes you cannot predict or completely say this is when it's going to happen. But as you just said, you're not even talking about when it's going to happen. Like it happened. It's happening. This is what's going on. And the more through the repetition and consistency, as we said a moment ago, the more it actually becomes real.
Well, and it changes for me, it changed the way how I approach life and approach my clients as well. I'm always been very customer service focused my whole career, even before real estate, and taking care of my customers and clients is very important to me. But now I do it from a different perspective, because I also, in my head, am manifesting the successful outcomes that I would like to have as I help them either buy or sell a home. And I go through it in my head, and I picture it, and I picture what that is. And it doesn't always happen exactly like that. But I'm finding that, and especially now, I don't know if your other clients have said this to you, but after COVID, things are a little bit more difficult. Like there's more hurdles, there's more obstacles that have come up. People are maybe a little bit more unsettled. Things have changed so much. And by doing those manifestations, it helps me to deal with any hurdles or obstacles that come, because I've already kind of gone through, this is the path where I want it to go. And I know some people say it's woo woo, but it's a game changer. It really changes your personal and professional life.
Hey, listen, again, as times get tough, and that's kind of where we're at right now. Market is slow. Keeping a strong mindset is going to be absolutely imperative. I mean, if you can't be strong for yourself when you look in that mirror, there's no way you're going to be strong for your clients. There's no way you're going to achieve what you're looking to achieve, right? Now, as we talk about mindset, we talk about manifesting, we talk about physical working out. Let's look at goals for a moment.
Yep.
Do you set the goals?
Yeah, so I used to set 25 goals for the year, and I would spend hours doing it, and then I would never look at the thing again.
Okay.
So it didn't work for me. So what I did instead is I set 3 goals for every quarter, and then I have a main goal for the year. So this way I look at that. It's in my planner. It's written down. So when I have a little tab and I flip to that, and then I'm like, okay, these are my 3 goals for this quarter. And then how far have I gotten? And I have, in my planner, I have like a task list. So what I do is sometimes I'm like, oh, I think if I do this, it'll help me achieve the goal. So then I write it in really quickly, right? Or I send an email to myself, put this in your planner if I'm out. And so if I found that when I set 3 goals per quarter for me, I achieve them, and then I feel really good that I did it, and then I can actually do more.
So what happens if you're not? How do you motivate yourself to refocus?
Not. So if I don't, what I actually do is I'll move a goal. If I haven't achieved a goal for whatever reason for that quarter, I'll either adjust it or move it. So because I think each opportunity that doesn't happen is a key learning experience. I learn just as much from those goals that I can't hit or I don't hit, or maybe they weren't realistic, or maybe maybe that wasn't the right goal for that time. And I'll sit and think about it and say, okay, what did I do? Or maybe it wasn't the right thing. And it's funny, I find a lot of times, like we have to track our GCIs, right? We have to track our commissions. But I find that if my goals are too money focused, then they don't seem to happen as often as where I focus on, okay, so last year I sold, 8 houses in this quarter. So this year I want to focus on, 9 houses. If I focus more that way versus on, this is what my commission is going to be for this quarter. And I don't know if it's because I can make me have the tasks to go with it to complete it, but it seems to work better than just being like, I'm going to make, 100,000 this quarter.
So you see, it's important, right? Because I think that a lot of times, and you said it a moment ago there about setting the goals and then going, but I may not be paying attention to them for the whole year. And then I end up falling off and I got to refocus. So here's what I do. I break it down by quarter now. And I mean, a big thing that we always talk about, again, with our coaching clients is very much about taking those big lifetime goals. And this is not woo-woo. This is very, very real. You need to have a destination if you ever want to get anywhere. Yeah. It's about taking those big lifetime goals, breaking those down into incremental annual goals, right down to monthly, weekly, daily goals, and then literally hour by hour goals. And look, if you can win the hour, you can get closer to winning the day. And of course, get closer to winning the week and the month and the year and having what you want in life. You've got to have a destination, and often too many times too many people do not focus on that because, again, it's too woo-woo. They don't want to drop their guard. Oh, look at me. You have to write it down if you want to get there.
100%. And I'm glad you said writing it down, because the other thing that I got from there, which I knew in my head, like, this one I knew that I have to track where my commissions are coming from, which I had been doing, but I have to track how many are coming in and what time of year they're coming in, so that I can figure out where are my gaps that I need to fill. And so I actually now pay attention to how many deals I have, which quarter they're coming in, is it a buyer or seller, and how much, so that I can say, because I never want to be, I used to be very heavy in 1 quarter or 2 quarters. And I don't want that to happen. That's what I'm trying to avoid. So now when I actually lay it down, and then I have now 3 or 4 years laid out that way. And now I can start to see patterns, and I can be like, oh, so August is a good time to take vacation, because it is a slower time.
There you go. The other thing to track is where is it coming from?
Yes.
Is it people you know or people you don't know? That's numero uno right there. Because if you can identify that the biggest portion, 70 to 90%, typically 70 to 90% of our business in this business will come from the people that know us, like us, and trust us. Group number one, the contact list. When we can identify the bigger source of that business, that's where you should put more of your time. Unlike working the online leads and the strangers and everything else, go after the people where it's coming from.
100%. And then your smaller portion is, your people you meet at open houses and your new people.
Sure. Group number two, transfer them to group number one.
Right. Exactly. And I have a client. I have one client who I had met in the very beginning in an open house. She has never done a transaction with me, but over the years, she has given me 12 referrals that have turned into transactions.
That is amazing.
Just because she liked me so much, because she loves her house. She's never moving, right?
Yeah. But she loves you.
Yeah, but because I keep up the relationship with her, I'm in touch with her. She sends me people because she trusts me and she knows the value that I add.
Well, this is powerful then. So what marketing channels and what kind of tools are you really leaning on, especially right now, to help you build more MindShare so you can get more market share?
So I feel like, I've been in business 12 years. Yeah. My mom is Sandy Bodner. She just retired after 47 years.
Wow,
but my mom, Sandy. She's amazing. You know her, right?
She's awesome.
Phenomenal. She's a firecracker. But for her, she was flying by the seat of her pants the whole time. And she was doing really well. And she had zero systems in place other than she took care of her clients. That was her thing she focused on. But she didn't track anything. She didn't have a CRM. She had a Filodex, like those old-fashioned cards. And so I didn't have anything to kind of build on. So over the last 12 years, we've honed it with different my background in marketing and advertising, plus what kind of works, what doesn't. And so what I've really focused on is there's a couple things we do consistently. And one is it's a direct mail newsletter. And the system that we use is actually Kit. So it's your system, David, which is how we got to know each other.
So grateful for you.
And I used it from the first year because I can customize. I don't have to write anything. But when I input my clients, I actually put in there, it asks for their age. I have in language. So then the first paragraph can be in language because I have clients who speak multiple languages that go in there. I have whatever holidays they celebrate. Because again, my clients are all different ethnicities. So I can put in that they celebrate, whether it's Diwali, whether it's Chinese New Year, whether it's Christmas, whether it's Hanukkah. So the newsletter is geared to them. And the newsletter is always different. And I have clients that will text me and be like, oh my God, that was so fabulous. I didn't know that about what I need to reset for the fall. And I'm like, awesome. That's great. Which is great because I want them to call me.
Sure, of course.
And calendars. I hate calendars. And I have used your calendar and sent it to my clients for 10 years. And the calendar is amazing because I do the smaller ones, but because they're personalized. So like the July one will have a beach and my client's name's in the sand. Or the one that was so awesome there was a Paris one. I think it was in April, and it had their name on the street sign. And my client, I'm getting goosebumps because my client was like, oh my God, how did you know that we got engaged in April in Paris and you sent us
No way. That just gave me goosebumps.
Right? And they framed it, right?
That's so cool.
And I have people that will call me to be like, hey, my friend gets your calendar. Can I have one of your calendars?
Yeah. And
they've since become clients. So those two touch points, because the direct mail calendar goes out every month in the mail, regardless. And a lot of people don't do mail. And it's easy for me because all I do is put my listings in. I don't have to write anything. Everything's done and it's never repeated. And then the calendars, I spend I think $1,000 or $1,200. We're increasing the number this year, and that was sending out to about 80 clients. So it was amazing from a price perspective, and everything gets mailed directly to them. You do nothing. I do that in December. And then throughout the year, we do a lot of touch points. And we did this during COVID. During COVID, we did the photos, the family photos, the porch photos.
Nice.
So I did those for my clients. We did those. We do homemade cookies. So what I do is because we can't do everyone every 2 months because it's too much. So I have everyone scheduled. So once a quarter or once every third quarter, people get touched. So we do home baked cookies because my mom loves to bake. We wrap them up and drop them off. We will do pumpkins for our clients that have pumpkins. We will get in front of people with, I'm doing a yoga thing in September, end of September or early October. We're just finalizing the date. For some of my clients that are into yoga meditation, I'm paying for a half-day retreat for them.
Oh, cool.
So we do some things that are more involved, but we're
a lot of physical touch points though.
Yeah, birthday
That's one
cards.
thing that I picked up on between the mail, the calendars, the pumpkins, the cookies, the yoga retreat.
Birthday
cards,
home anniversary cards, home anniversary is the date they moved in. We do cards for their actual anniversaries. I try to do for the kids' birthdays. Because through Facebook, you can find some of that out if you don't know.
Right.
But we are very physical to the point where, we're driving to the client's house and dropping stuff off. And I have clients between now, because my people move everywhere. I'm between literally Oshawa all the way to Oakville, and I'm north to like even to Mulmer because we moved to Caledon. So we do our geographic areas and we drive, right? So it's a lot of the physical touch points. And I found during COVID that was helpful. But and then I know my clients, so then I call them and if they have dogs, I bring dog treats, right? If they have cats, I bring cat treats. Like if they have kids, I find stuff and bring stuff. Like here, we're on vacation. I'm like, oh, this would be awesome for my client, right? I pick up a little something to give to them.
It's the people.
So it doesn't have to be every month, but yeah. And I love my clients. They're amazing. And that's the other key thing is I only work with people that I like and respect. I do not take a client just for money. If they're a mean or nasty person, I tell them, I'm sorry, it's not a good fit. It does not work because that's not me. Kindness is my superpower. And I not everyone has to be kind, but you have to be a decent, honest human being for me to work with you.
So much. I mean, everything you just labeled off is all about, it's the definition of it being a people business. You're getting together with people. You're sending things to people. There's physical touch between people. Like this is the stuff. And we are allowing these smartphones to get in between all that. And we're allowing the technology to take over. And again, this is a reminder, everybody, remain relevant, build on those relationships, understand where the business comes from, get involved with those people.
Yeah.
Now,
and listen to them, right? Don't just talk at them.
Oh, you have to.
Like,
actively.
Hey, how are you? That's the other thing. Call your clients. Your CRM system, so important, right? Call your clients. Make a note when you need to call them again.
It's the importance of connecting with people. Now, as we talk about connecting with people, I want to transition here to a little more specific to the mastermind itself. Because again, we started off the show today talking about, first of all, we've titled the whole thing, The Power of Investing in You. And we know that you were in the room last year and you've dropped already a bunch of little nuggets throughout this show talking about the impact that it had for you, during and after. But I want to try to give people, because again, the way we promote this thing is we don't really tell anybody anything. And we just kind of say to people like, buy the ticket, be there. But I want to try to give some people, everybody tuned in, some insights here, because we've got a couple days left. Like we literally have, a couple days until registration closes. Now, I will say to everybody, registration closes on August 9th. Okay. It's on Friday this week. If you're tuned into this show and it is after Friday, August 9th, if you missed it, you missed it. Like you missed it. It's, well, I'll tell you what, I may know somebody that might be able to help you get in there. So if you really want to get in there, message me. But Rayissa, let's talk about this a little bit. You had attended last year. You had attended the MindShare Mastermind in Toronto. What led you to sign up to an event that you knew nothing about?
So I was in after COVID. I think like everyone, I was in like my anxiety levels were higher than normal. My business I had huge gaps the year before. I had made huge, like we had 2 record years, and then it was, things were changing. And I don't normally ever have anxiety. Like I'm one of those people that I'm pretty practical and calm. So that threw me for a loop. And I thought, I can't run my business if I have suffering from anxiety, right? It's crippling. So I was like, I have to do something different. I read a lot of books and I wasn't able, normally my, Brene Brown and some of my other authors I love can help, right? It didn't. So it was funny. All of a sudden, in like 1 week, the MindShare, the mastermind started popping up and kicking me in the butt. It was like I saw David at a conference, and he's like, "You got to go to this." And then someone else was like, "Oh, I signed up for this. You got to go." And then it was popping up on my phone. And then someone else in her office was like, "Hey, did you hear about this?" And I was like, "Okay, universe, I'm going." Yeah. So I was like, I'm gonna pay, and I'm gonna go. And I was like, crap, it's oh my God, I have to spend money. You go through the same thing, right? As realtors, we pay for everything. And then I got there and it was, first of all, the space was fantastic and beautiful. It was gorgeous. It was not.
Okay, hold on. Before you get there though, I want to talk to that because sorry, I apologize. I want to pause because I know there's a lot of people that are apprehensive right now.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people are apprehensive. So again, what kind of thoughts were rolling through the mind before you decide to purchase your ticket? Like here you are, you're hearing from people. You're saying my mind is telling me I got to be doing something. Then all of a sudden I'm hearing about this and I'm hearing from other people that they're going. So I decide I'm going to go.
Yep.
And then you're like, you haven't purchased the ticket yet. What's going through your mind? Oh my God, I don't know what it
Well, I
is.
was like, oh my God, yeah. And I'm like, I just came off like 2 months where I only had one commission. Like, do I really want to spend this money? Like, and I was talking to my husband, and he's like, well, okay, you've been talking about this for 3 days. He's like, I think you need to go. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm like, what if we don't have another deal for another month? And he's like, you have to go. So but I literally put on the credit card and I cringed because I was like, I don't know what I'm signing up for. I don't know if it's going to help. And what if it's the same old that like everyone does? And I'm going to be like, oh, this was a waste of time.
So is that how you feel like once you actually bought the ticket? Because remember something, I haven't been in your shoes. I know what's going on. I know what we're going to be doing.
Yes.
And listen, as you know, it does take on a life of its own as we are in that room because of that energy, right?
Oh,
But to that, once you did purchase, you put the credit. How did you feel at that point?
so for me, once I make the purchase, I'm okay then because for me, it's the agony before the decision. Once I make it, I'm like, okay, that's it. I booked it. The receipt goes in my quarterly envelope for my write-offs, and I'm good. So I was, I'm a little bit nervous. Like I'm not nervous to meet new people, but I was nervous as to expectations and content, and I was hoping it was going to be fun and interesting, and I was hoping I was going to learn something, right?
Okay,
So I was
cool.
like, if I can learn one thing, but there was two game changers for me, and I'm not going to give away stuff about
Okay, hold on.
right?
So you started to
Okay.
tell us you bought the ticket,
Yep.
apprehensive beforehand, worrying about the deals, and that's an
Yep.
important point right now because there's a lot of people on that same fence at this moment, right? The market being slower, people are a little bit worried, pull the money in the pocket. What's it going to do for me? Is it
Yep.
really going to help me? But you did it
Yep.
and then felt good.
Yep.
And then you arrived and I totally cut you off a moment ago. As you said, like
That's
I
okay.
walked into that room. Tell us about that. Like, share your experiences about, when you first arrived.
Well, so it's funny. So I was like, because I got Leanne had sent a message, and she was like, "Oh, do you want to book a hotel room?" Because it was in downtown Toronto, and I live
Right.
about like a 45-minute drive. And I was like, "Oh, I'm not wasting money on a hotel room. I'm gonna drive in every day. Like this is like I don't need to be doing this 24/7, right? I'm just gonna go for the conference." So I walk in, and what I noticed was that some of the people had arrived the Sunday night, and they went to dinner together. And so they already had a camaraderie. And I was like, well, maybe I should have gone to Sunday night and gone to dinner too. Like, hey. And then Monday, so all of a sudden I started seeing some of the connections people were making. The space was fantastic. Thank you so much for not putting us in a hotel conference room that was crappy. We had exposed brick walls. We had huge windows. It had a view. Like it was beautiful. Snacks were great, and the water and everything else that you had. So all of a sudden you walk in, and it wasn't 100 people, and it wasn't even 60 people. It was a small enough space, and it wasn't set up like a classroom where you could sit in the back or the front. It was more round. So then too, it was inclusive, right? And the speakers were around the room. So once I got in, you start meeting people, and everyone was pretty dynamic. It was funny. It was such a good group of people. Like people were, and it wasn't the crazy sales, like type A sales types. Like it was a very comfortable space of very genuinely good people that actually wanted to be there. No one
It's
was
cool
forced.
energy, eh?
Yeah, it was
It
huge.
was a very cool
It,
energy. I remember walking in the room and feeling the vibe of just the excitement that people had and the fact that people were already networking with each other, getting to know each other. And like I've said many times, and I've said this to everybody before, right? I don't want you coming to this event because your friend is coming. I mean, look, if your friend is coming, you decide, hey, that sounds exciting, join, come with them, fine.
yeah,
But I don't want you to make the decision because your friend is coming. I want you making it because you want to be there. And last year, much like, we're going to be doing this year, everybody in the room wants to be there. They're not just there because it's the thing to do that day, because the rest of their office is going, because it seems like it's the popular place to be. People
right.
are there because they genuinely want to go to a next level.
And everyone had a different reason for being there. Like some, it was they wanted to increase their commission. Some, it was they wanted to learn more about, what can they do to market themselves. Like everyone had a little bit of a different expectation. The one thing we had in common is that we each wanted to change part of our area of practice to increase our results. That was the biggest thing that I found that everybody had. And everyone walked away with different benefits that worked for them. Right.
What were some of your sort of key takeaways then because we covered a lot of ground.
Yeah.
We covered a
Yeah.
lot of ground. We had some incredibly dynamic speakers. People that you wouldn't see at any other real estate conference, by the way.
No, and that was what was so cool is we had people from other industries. Like we had people from the athletics shoe industry.
This one we could share. So VP of Foot Locker.
Okay. Yes.
VP of Budweiser.
Yes, you share because I don't know who we can share.
Yeah. No, that's okay. Listen, the people that were there last year were there. That's
yeah.
So cool.
And it was so cool because I appreciate the fact because you can always gain insights on marketing and on leadership and on self-development from other people, regardless of the industry. And sometimes in a different industry, you're like, oh, I can apply that this way, and it's different than what everyone else is doing. So I really appreciated that. And they were down to earth. No one came in a suit like to speak. Everyone was down to earth, and they shared good stuff. They weren't just, you could tell no one was dialing it in. No one was doing the same speech they've done 100 times at every conference that they go to.
Well, there was no PowerPoints, right? There was no visuals. There was no PowerPoints. There was no whiteboards.
It was personal, David. It was the whole thing was so personal. It was amazing.
That's so good. That's so good. So similar to any event that you'd been to, or was this one? I mean, was this like totally different?
David, I've had the privilege, and when I was 15 years in the corporate world, and I worked for some amazing companies that sent me to fantastic conferences and locations, and I've experienced some of the best out there. And what I loved about this one was that it wasn't gimmicky. No one was selling me anything during, before, or after. And it was really felt like you could tell everything was curated so well to the real estate professional. And it was so curated towards development of that professional. That was the center. And then it was, leadership and marketing and relationships and self-development and fulfillment. But the core was who we are, that we are realtors. Because sometimes people try to just, let me teach you about marketing. But if it's not relatable, it doesn't, none of us have, we're not going to spend $100,000 like on marketing.
Right,
unless you're
right.
So that's what I loved about it, is that it was very personal. You knew everyone's name, even if you were just meeting, a few of the people you had just met, but you made a point, and your staff and your team was awesome. They were there for us. They knew who everyone was. By the second day, we were all like, hey, we were all comfortable, everyone was there, and it was just, it was joyful. Actually, it was weird. It was joyful, which you don't expect at a work day. Cool.
Well, so how do you compare that to then going to some of these? Because hey, conference season's coming up, and there's a lot of different options for people to choose from. And I'm sure a lot of people are looking, going, okay, again, some of my friends are going to this conference, some of my friends are going to that conference. I've heard about this one. Oh, it's whatever. And people are going to choose to go to some conferences. What would you say the biggest difference between this mastermind is versus some of the big conferences that people could go to? And maybe that experience between kind of like one versus the other.
So again, for me, the conference was so personal. So, and I'll give you an example of what that means is that, so for the speakers, so some of the speakers were actually attended portions of the conference, and we didn't know. So they were participating as attendees, and then they would sit and have lunch. And so you're chatting and you're meeting people, and then they would be the speaker, or after they spoke, they would participate for the rest of the day with us as an attendee. So it didn't feel like, conferences are great when you have the big speaker up on the screen and you're in the audience and you learn stuff, but there's no interaction. You're learning it, and it's whatever you can write down really fast to make sure you remember. Where here, I felt like it was an experience, and no one was just talking at us. We were experiencing with them what was happening. That we were fully involved, fully engaged. Nobody fell asleep, which was odd. People always fall asleep somewhere. You always see the head nod, right? Nobody fell asleep, not any of the days we were there. So that to me is a huge success and a huge difference. And everybody walked, and everyone was like, at the end, everyone was like, we should have had another half a day. This wasn't long enough. So
that's the funniest part. I know we asked about feedback. It's like, okay, what would you guys change? I was like, we want it to be longer. I was like, whoa, I didn't expect that.
Yeah.
So look, there's been a theme to some of the conversation today around the market and around the economy changing, around opportunity coming. Volumes are down for most people across most industries, and spending money is something that most don't want to be doing right now. Why do you take the time to invest in yourself, and how has this increased your overall volume?
So I'll actually tell you from a GCI perspective. So I was up 35% after the conference for the remainder of that year, and the conference
Nice.
first. That's only one quarter, right? And I'm already tracking higher this year than I was last year. And last year and this year were tough years, right? I have successful agents in my office who've had one or two deals. And knock on wood, I'm consistently busy and because of the things that I learned. So for agents, there's a direct now I have to caveat this. There's a direct correlation
Yep.
with how your future success after this conference, but you got to put in the work. So you have to put in the work at the mastermind, and you got to put in the work afterwards.
That's a great point. I like that.
If you just sit there and take it in, rah rah, yay, awesome. But you got to put in the work. So you got to, whatever you do, take notes. But you gotta walk the walk afterwards, and you will see a change. Even if you only do one thing from the conference, just one, you'll see it.
So when it all ended, and well, I won't share that part, but when it all ended, how did you feel when you walked out? I mean, literally, we all kind of, got up, we ended a certain way,
Yeah.
and kind of everybody said their goodbyes and then left.
Yeah.
You're driving home. How did you feel after that?
Oh my God. I was so energized. So I get in the car and it's rush hour. I'm driving home. So it's going to take me like an hour. I call my mom, who's retired, and I'm like, oh my God, this was so awesome. She's like, tell me about it. The whole entire car ride home, I talked. And we weren't supposed to talk to anyone for like 30 days. And I was like, I'm talking to my mom because she understands. Because I was so excited. I was like, I can't not talk to someone. I have to, like, I was dying because I was like, and then this happened. And then we learned this. And then this was awesome. And I can't believe this. And then I'm like, Mom, write this down so I don't forget it. Like, that's how I walked out. I was like flying, right? I wasn't tired. I was flying at the end.
So good. So good. So a 35% lift in your business right there after the,
Just
that
the first
quarter,
quarter.
that's amazing. That is so cool. That is so cool. So a significant impact in your business then.
Absolutely. And the impact that I love the most that it had for this year, because then these are those practices I put in place, is I've generated a more consistent and steady income for myself this year. And it's tracking higher than where I was last year at this time.
So exciting. So
And
exciting. You got no, like my cheeks are hurting. It's like I'm smiling. It's
well,
honestly,
why?
you know how much passion we put into this thing. You know how much we
Yeah.
care. You know how hard we work to put on an event that's going to be truly unique and truly impactful for everybody that's there.
Yeah. Well,
So it is so cool to hear the feedback.
and David, we had a lot of expenses this year, and we had a wedding. My stepdaughter got married to an amazing man, so wedding expenses and all the other
Yep.
fun stuff. And I still chose to spend money on this event this year. That's how important it is to me, and that's how much of an impact it had on me the first time.
That is so okay. So tell me this then, like, what do you want to say to anybody who is still on the fence about joining us? Anyone who's hesitating because they don't know if it's going to be worth it, because they're hesitant to spend the extra money on themselves right now. What would you say to anybody there?
Okay, so if you're in a place of your business where you're like, I need a change, I don't know what to do something different, but I need to do something different because I can feel myself almost there, but I can't quite get to the point I want to be at. This is when you need to attend this conference and you need to go. So you got to take a leap of faith because you got to be at that point where, because you have to do the work. So you got to be like, yes, I want to be there and I need a change. So if you're, if you haven't had enough commissions, if you haven't had enough listings, if you're looking at the fall and your bucket's empty, and you're like, oh my gosh, what is going to happen? This is where you need to be. It will help.
So amazing, Rayissa. So amazing. Before we start to tie this show up today, is there anything else you want to share about that event? That I mean, wow, I am so super excited about the impact that it had on you. And this is something that I said to everybody in the room that day, or that week that we were there, is something that I will say again this year, and something that I say to everybody all the time, even when I'm one of those speakers on the big screen on the stage at a conference, is that I love being there with you. I love helping make the impact. I love the fact that you enjoy the time there. I love the fact that you're learning something. To me, though, it's not about that moment. It's not about the applause after the fact. It's not about any of that. I want to know if this had an impact on you, your life, and your business, and I want to know that after the fact.
Yeah.
And again, listening to you today, truly, I know you've shared tidbits with me along the way. Truly, this is the first time I've been able to pick your brain about it the way I have, and obviously we're doing it on a public forum, so I appreciate you doing so. you genuinely seem like you made a big impact, and it's awesome to hear it. And I'm going to remind you, keep it up. It doesn't stop. It's got to keep going, because if we do stop it, things stop.
Absolutely. And that was the problem I've always had before. And this had an impact professionally, and it had an impact on my personal life. Because I have to tell you that I got additional coping skills with anxiety that have tremendously helped. And so it had an impact on my family life, on my personal life, and on my professional life, which that I think is a rare accomplishment. So thank you,
That's
David.
so cool.
And your team.
Thank you. Well, you know what? And thank you. The team is, I'm grateful. Talk about being grateful. I write that one in my gratitude journal.
Yeah, absolutely.
Super grateful to have such an amazing team and such supportive people that truly believe in what we're doing and see the impact and truly feel the impact. Not just attend, not just talk about it or watch it, but put the actions into action to get the results from those actions.
Well, and that's it. There's so many people where, like, I have the same awards that everyone else does and all those accolades. Those are not what's important. What's important at the end of the day is helping your clients to either buy or sell their house, to find a home of their dreams. Like, that's what the focus should be. And that's where our money should be spent, on helping us develop to achieve that. And that your conference, the Mastermind conference that you put on, helps us to achieve that.
So amazing. So you've gone through all this stuff and you're having a fantastic day, and you've achieved, and you've done work, and you've gone through stresses and good things and bad things, and the day is over for you.
Yep.
How do you know it's been a successful day for you?
That one's easy for me. If I have helped one client that day, my day has been a success. So every day I have to help one client. It doesn't matter if it's a small way or a big way, but that for me is a success, because my goal is to help my clients. Whatever they need to achieve, that's my goal, is to help them.
There's that 4-letter word again. Help, 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 help. Understand, everybody. Think about what you could do to help others.
Yeah.
And in some way, that help gets returned.
Absolutely.
Rayissa, any final words of wisdom you want to give to everybody to help them get out there, build more mind share, to get more market share?
Invest in yourself. If you don't believe in yourself, and if you don't continue to feed the engine that is you, and feed your brain, continue to develop yourself, attend something like David's mastermind, read books, listen to the podcast. His is gold, by the way. That's the gold standard. You have to invest in yourself, or just get out of the business, because you will not be successful and you'll be miserable. And if you invest in yourself and your time, and you do things like the mastermind, you will see success and you will change your life.
Powerful. Absolutely awesome. You've got my cheeks hurting now. It's been an amazing episode today. Seriously, smiling from ear to ear. I am so super pumped about all the positive things you've shared about the event. Moreover, I am so super pumped about the impact that it has had on you. I'm grateful for you. I really am, for being part of our MindShare community, for being part of our Kits community, for all the support that you provide. Even moreover, for the fact that you're getting the successes out of it, and that truly is what it's all about. Can we help others? And it seems like, things we're doing here and the efforts we're putting forward are certainly doing so. So I can't thank you enough. We talked today about the power of investing in you, strategies from an expert realtor. Rayissa Palmer, thank you very much for joining us. And I cannot wait to see you in a few weeks here in Toronto.
Thank you and your team. Mwah. Thanks, David.
We'll talk to you soon. Enjoy the rest of that vacation.
Thanks.
You are either listening to this on one of your favorite podcast platforms, or maybe you went to my website, mindshare101.com. Don't forget to leave a review of this podcast at www.ratethispodcast.com/mindshare101. Again, big 5 stars, nice little review, super grateful. Of course, if we haven't yet, connect with me on Facebook, on TikTok at MindShare101, and on Instagram at David Greenspan 101. I want to take a quick moment to say a big thank you to Kits Keep in Touch Systems, REM Real Estate Magazine, and the ORCF, Ontario Realtors Care Foundation, for sponsoring this episode of the MindShare Podcast. This has been another episode of the MindShare Podcast. Now go check out the details for the upcoming mastermind. Registration's closing on August 9th. We are taking place together, the mastermind, September 16th to the 18th in Toronto. Again, get yourself in that room. If you didn't hear Rayissa, go back and re-listen to this episode right now. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you all in Toronto. Thanks, everybody.